I'd like to introduce my panel to the stage now, if you'd like to come up. We have a fairly diverse panel, and what we're looking to try and do is broaden some of the thinking patterns around what makes people influence their choice or their product type. We're going to look at 3 different sectors of the industry and how they kind of merge together, and there is a blurring of the lines. And then we're going to get some insight in terms of new technology that is out there. I think it's important to recognize that, I can work it out, don't worry. They were given seating numbers, that clearly didn't work, so we'll work it through differently. As far as the businesses are concerned, it's not just large businesses that can employ technology. It isn't everybody that likes technology. As we heard earlier, I mean, at Butlins, for example, it is the massive percentage, almost the majority of every booking that's made is by a mum. And they will talk through that booking on the telephone. So it's very difficult sometimes to use technology in that situation. And equally, sometimes certain types of the population don't like high technology. So in your folders is our Destination UK, the Barclays contribution to today's outlook for what's going on in consumers' mind, particularly in the tourism and leisure sector. And that's some of the influences that help make those decisions. So in terms of our panel today, we have Helena Egan from TripAdvisor, Raphael Mason from American Express, Robert Cook from Virgin Active, Crispin Lilly from Everyman, Stephen McCall from IHG, and Rue Roberts from Google. So what I was going to do was ask them to just briefly explain what they do at their industries. They will be asked to give you a top tip to take away at the end of their particular presentation. We'll make a few comments around their industry. We'll try and cover them and overlap them. The running order is deliberate to try and give you some feel for some of the background about the research and what people are thinking, some of the experiences that can make a difference to people, then 3 different operators from cinema, hotel and gyms, and then we'll come back to Google to talk about some of the technology. So Helen, if I could ask you maybe if you could just give a brief introduction of yourself and then talk about some of the research that you're finding coming from TripAdvisor.
Cool. Can I ask first, are we going to put the slide up? Sorry.
We have a slide.
So yes, I'm Helena Egan from TripAdvisor. I look after the industry relations globally, and I absolutely love listening to the industry. And a great example is what we do with BHA. We go around and do roundtables in different regions in UK, and I learn every single roundtable. Having been almost 9 years with TripAdvisor, I learn something new because listening to the industry is really important. And we heard about Mumsnet earlier. It's understanding what industry needs also, but understanding what consumers need. And if you can marry the two, I mean, that's pretty amazing. We put some stats up there because we wanted to showcase, obviously, good things are happening in UK, where we have the biggest increase, Scotland. So in Moray, we have more reviews coming in than anywhere else in UK right now. But I wanted to highlight a couple of these quirky facts. Sometimes you think things like when you say Indian or Australian travelers want a kettle in their room. They actually do. It's a deal breaker for them. So when we talk about little things that matter for families, and then you put it in a big picture and you look at what matters for a global traveler, it could be something really simple that's not going to cost a fortune, not actually going to cost that much at all, but it kind of puts things in perspective, saying, if you're targeting a specific, nationality, for example, you know that a lot of people are looking at your property. Look at the data. You've got Google, you've got TripAdvisor, you've got Amex, you've got Barclays, you have data coming from all directions. It's actually really, really useful only if you look at it which is relevant for your specific business and your specific consumers. So I really want to have a really great conversation. So this was just a quick opening for me. I've got a lot more stats, but I think we want to have a chat. So I'm done.
So in terms of the trends that you're seeing, talking about who makes the decisions, you listen to the consumers, and do you believe that the consumer is driving a lot of business structures and shapes going forward? Are you seeing this feedback actually being built out in terms of the offer that they've received?
100%. I mean, I think that the fact is we've had some amazing products. I've seen a lot of great ideas and products being built within our company as well. Consumers hated them. They weren't using them. And we're in a great position as being the world's largest travel site with almost 400 million people coming to our site every month. We can go test those things. If the consumers don't like it, it could be the best idea that you think, wow, I'm going to really make money on this. Airbnb is a great example. First 4 years, nothing really happened, and then all of a sudden the consumers really got it. Yeah. and up they went. So I think you have to listen to the consumers. And changing a consumer perception, we talked about it briefly earlier, it's really difficult. You know, we've just relaunched our site, we're becoming much more of a, getting people to make that booking decision and then using one of our tools to go and book it elsewhere. But changing the consumer perception takes a long, long time. And if you change your product, your site, if you don't listen to a consumer, it's really dangerous as well, because end of the day, they are the users, they are the people who come and consume the product. So if we haven't paid attention to them, whether it's families, I loved all those, I don't have children, but I actually learned a lot in that. And I think every business can. And there's niches that you have to look at, but also listening to the big things. So consumers 100% drive this. Artificial intelligence, you know, machine learning, it's easy. It's easy to pull those facts and understand what the consumer really needs. I think it'd be hugely dangerous if we weren't listening to the travelers and the consumers.
Okay, thank you. Raphael, just bringing in American Express and the view of lifestyle, and at the top of the tree you've got your Centurion product. How do American Express look at trend setting, and how do you deal with changing consumer demand and patterns?
Yeah, so we spend a lot of money on consumer insight and research, and we also have a treasure trove of data because we can see what our customers are spending on. But I think the more you go upstream in terms of the product type, the more you have to do in terms of really understanding what the customer's perspective is. So we spend a lot of time with customers directly to supplement that research. So I will meet with 3 or 4 customers a week myself personally. We also will host dinners, we will host focus groups, we'll have cocktail hours and receptions. And what's interesting for me is sometimes we will find and discover different insights from those direct conversations with customers than you would have thought you were hearing from data and surveys. One of the biggest trends that we have seen is that customers at the highest end, so the most affluent customers, are relating to the whole concept of luxury in a very different way. So if you went back 20 or 30 years, I would say there was much more of a, material luxury goods, what I call bling, played a much bigger role in people's lives and was much more meaningful. I think today what we're seeing is bling has become so ubiquitous such that it almost has very little meaning for a certain segment of premium customers. And so what is more important, however, is experiences. Right, experiential value is more important to people today than perhaps ever before. And so, I thought the speaker did a great job of talking about service and hospitality and going back to the whole concept of empathy. And we definitely feel that that's a big part of experience. We also have found, though, that customers we are trying to curate more exclusive American Express money can't buy truly exceptional experiences for them. And so that's an area that I think, that's a mega trend that we think will stay, and we're investing more and more money behind it. I would say, in terms of top tips, because I know that was one of your questions, given what we're hearing in terms of this great thirst for experience, a tip I would have for those in travel and hospitality is don't forget the concierge. Concierge is super important. We hear that a lot from our customers. We obviously have our own concierges at American Express, but we hear mixed reviews of concierges in different hotels. So we are trying to improve our concierge experience, and I imagine if I had to give a top tip, I'd say you guys could focus on that as well.
That's great, thank you. Let's just move into the industry side, and Robert, in terms of Virgin Active and your background, because you come from the hotel side into Virgin Active, just explain a little bit about your history, and then what are you seeing in Virgin Active, and how do you see the future shaping there?
I think having spent 30 years in hotels, it was quite an eye-opener for me to walk into almost a new industry. One of the things that frightened me from day one was the fact that people join our clubs every month, but an equal amount of people were leaving our clubs every month, and it seems to be an industry stat that's quite normal. I got concerned that I was spending an enormous amount of money every month, or we were spending a lot of money every month on promotion to get people to join, and equally the same amount of people walking out the door. at the end of the month. So we got into bed with Microsoft and started looking at propensity churn modeling and used our friends at Virgin Media, and that's a great thing about being with Virgin. It's a family of brands, and we can leverage off airlines for customer service. We can leverage off with Virgin Media in this case on the whole thing about the behaviour and the propensity for members to churn. And we did quite a lot of work on the customer behaviour and the member behaviour, and at times in their lifetime with us. And a member with us will spend 17.7 months. It costs us £135 to acquire that member, and we want to elongate that 17.7 months. And we got into looking at their behaviour when they bought their membership in the month. So we know that those who buy in the last 4 days of the month, when we're pushing very hard, have got a propensity not to stay with us very long. And we know those who train with us in the morning have a likelihood to use our clubs more and likely not to get tapped on the shoulder at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and said, "You're going to the gym tonight, we're going to the pub, do you want to join us?" So with that sort of insight, we are now every month looking at that 10,000 or so members that are coming towards the end of their contract with us, and we're intervening there. And in the last 4 months, we've managed to improve our retention by, this month just finished, 11% against our budget, which is unheard of in the industry for that elongated time by doing these interventions. And we've got a whole team at it now that we're doing constant work with Microsoft at the dynamics model that we're using, and it's changing the way that we're selling health clubs.
But you've also got, I mean, one of your concepts is family fun as well. So you look at the extended family, a bit of the Italian model maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I was really interested in Mumsnet, and I'm definitely going to give you a call. We've got 25,000 children members in the club from ages of 2 right up to 16-week-old children. We've got different activities that we do for them. And, for every child that joins, you bring 2 parents, and that's big for us, obviously. And also, the family members stay longer than anyone else. So it's a big model for us. We are to the point earlier, we're very good 2 to 10 to 12, and then we sort of not so good with the teenagers. So there's a lot of stuff that we're doing at the moment on that, and particularly we were just talking before we came into the room about that 16 to 18 bit. We were having a big session about that yesterday, because not only is it good for the body, it's good for the mind. There's a lot of issue in the world with anxiety and self-harming in that age group, and I think that healthier mind, healthier body, and wellness in general is something that we feel very strongly about. We've reshaped our business in the 14 months I've been with the business, from 95 clubs in the UK down to 46, for good reason. I mean, the industry is morphing, and the world is going into a more studio-based environment, and we felt very strongly when we made these moves that we had to think about where the future was going to be for us. And we see family as being a massive part for us, but also we see not just you getting fit. We see ourselves now in the mold we're in as, yes, we are the experts in fitness and wellness, but also in your mind and also restorative. So when you're training to do a triathlon or a marathon and so on and so forth, we're really trying to get you back into the club and do restorative work through sports massage. We've launched a product called Beyond Movement, which is all about reforming Pilates, which is about physio, which is about sports massage, but also mindset and wellness of the mind. And I think we've got a responsibility not just to get you fit, but also in a restorative way, give you longevity.
And just briefly, in terms of the demographics, the people that come to your clubs, obviously different times, but do you cater for all ages and types?
Absolutely. We are from 2 to 80, and we have. I was saying earlier, we've got members who actually, and this is another interesting dynamic. Not everybody joins our clubs just to get fit, and this comes to the lifestyle point. So we've got a regular bunch of guys who use our Glasgow club, who come to us on a Wednesday and a Friday to socialise. And I was meeting them, and I was having a chat with them one day, and they've never used the gym, never been in the changing room. They just come there to have their cup of tea, have their breakfast, and mix with the guys. So I think, yes, there's the absolute gym junkie, but there's also that social element. And people come to clubs to meet people. Yeah. And I think that's an important part. And that's the bit of my old world I'm sort of really working hard on to get the hospitality element really back in there.
Okay, thank you. So the Everyman model, not everybody might know the Everyman model, Crispin, but I mean, in terms of CRM, the model that you offer, how you're developing and rolling out, just give us a little bit of a plotted history on Everyman and what it is you look for and how you work your CRM, for example.
Or how we're looking to develop our CRM.
Okay.
Can I ask how many people know the Everyman experience who visits the Everyman Experience. Not many, and that's fine. Don't feel too guilty, those of you that didn't, but put it on your to-do list. But it's interesting, one of the challenges we have, and you mentioned it, was around preconceptions. And that's the biggest challenge that we have at Everyman. Everyman is basically about delivering wonderful, high-end hospitality, intimate cinema experience. The problem we have whenever we talk to someone who doesn't know or hasn't experienced Everyman is the moment you use the word cinema, your expectations are benchmarked back to probably your local multiplex. And there is nothing wrong with local multiplexes. There's a lot of very good multiplexes out there, but they do a very certain thing. They deliver mass market film commodity experience, if you like, using the word experience maybe lightly. And I had 20 years in the multiplex background before I joined Everyman, so I certainly wouldn't knock it, but I think it's interesting when you look at UK cinema, cinema going as an average across the UK is less than 3 times a year. Everyone thinks they go about 2 to 3 times more than that. They don't, believe me. But the 15 to 24-year-olds do go 9 times a year, and the multiplexes serve them extraordinarily well. What happens with most of us is we start earning money, we start working harder, sometimes we have families, and all our values change, and suddenly the multiplex experience doesn't deliver what we want. And what my predecessors, I always say, I've been in this job 3 years now, I inherited this amazing model and we're developing it and rolling out. I wasn't clever enough to come up with it myself, but I love what it was because it kind of married my lifestyle. Value for money will always have to be given for every one of us in this room, but we increasingly talk about value for time. And again, Carrick talked about or alluded to this so much in her presentation, you know, the moment you have kids, actually, you know, or you just work hard and you get 4 date nights a year, the competition for what we do is immense. You know, at its source, we do something so simple. We take loads of people in to a darkened auditorium, turn out the lights, and let them watch someone else's work for 2 hours. That's not inherently that difficult across the cinema spectrum. So actually, the competition, not only because you can now watch film so much across all sorts of other media, but you've got the competition from gyms, a nice night out in a restaurant, that's our competition, more than the plex. So it's what you do around that that gives you that value for time. And what we do is we deliver small, intimate venues where you will have great interaction with some tremendous people, our staff. We deliver great F&B and a simple, recognise what we do, but a really good gin in a really good glass that you can take through to the film. Whilst watching the film, if you choose to, and we're not too worried about. No, I mean, fundamentally, people are still coming to see a film. So it's not rocket science, but our biggest challenge is getting people in the first time. Because you sit and you say, it's blah, 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 market, lovely, intimate, boutique, cinema, benchmark. When they walk through the doors for the first time, and as we're scaling out, this is increasingly our challenge, is just getting people in for the first time. People walk in and they get the difference. You're confronted by a beautiful, lovely lounge bar, not by a Coke stand. And that's what we do, and we're rolling it out very successfully. The big game-changing was, you know, we had our heartland in North London, where the original Everyman is. But actually was realizing that this is, you know, we're a little bit more expensive, but we're not ridiculous. You know, this night out, the value for money is extraordinarily good value as long as you're delivering on all those things. As we've rolled out across the UK, it's actually been more and more successful. And that's still our primary focus. I mean, CRM, yep. membership integral part of our program, but something that we are very much on the hockey stick starting to deliver. The biggest part, and you've mentioned it several times here, is listening and interacting with customers. You know, we recruit from hospitality. We very rarely recruit from cinema. And again, it's not knocking what people who work in cinema do. I'm a rare exception making the bridge. But I'm pretty confident that my team can teach anyone the technical skills of running a bar or even running a cinema. I can't teach someone to smile and empathize. And that piece, that first connection, that moment of interaction, those 2 or 3 minutes you might get talking to a staff, that's everything. That's the things that people remember, even if the film is average.
Yeah, no, thank you. And big rollout to come, so good luck with that. Stephen, in terms of IHG and the multiple brands that IHG have got, the hotel industry, IHG as well, you've had to keep fleet of foot and change to keep up with consumer demands. What's your role in IHG and in terms of Kimpton in particular? What's the USP there?
So, so I'm responsible for operations across nearly 700 hotels in Europe, but I've also been with IHG for over 15 years, which, doesn't necessarily help you with an external sort of perspective. But, as part of my kind of creeping midlife crisis, I've looked across sort of not just our business, but our industry, and it's quite peculiar. There's some odd things that we do that place us sort of further and further away from our guests. I like to call them guests. We always used to call them guests, and it's consumers now. I don't like that, because I think the whole notion of guests is closer to hospitality. It's warmer, it's more human, Yep. And we talk about our business in a way which must be completely alien to the people that we're trying to serve. So like nobody goes home at night and says, tonight, my dear, I'm going to treat you to all-day dining in an upper upscale hotel. Right? Nobody actually does that. And there's a kind of sort of terminology that we've sort of developed in a way of thinking which I think is not helpful to what is fundamentally a pretty straightforward thing, which is to create warmth, to create an experience, because it's the experiences that people remember, not the functional stuff. You need to have a clean room, you need to have a quick check-in, you want a good location, all these things matter, but they're not the things that people remember. And I think, as Carrie was saying, putting yourself in the shoes of your guests, or even in your own shoes, because we're all normal people, we all stay in hotels and we're involved in hospitality as a guest or as a consumer, if you want to use that word. It's not that difficult a thing to do, and yet, we sort of default to behaviour which is now sort of way out of step, I think, of where the industry's evolved from. So maybe 20 years ago when you checked into a hotel, it was a treat. You had an ensuite toilet and a TV in your room. What a luxury that was. And these days, when you look particularly at mainstream hotels, that isn't there. People have got better broadband at home. They've got a wider selection of their own entertainment, right? So you have to be doing more than that. Even the big brands, which used to be enough to stand for consistency. It used to be enough just to have a name above the door that people could relate to something that they could rely on. With the amount of sort of online advocacy we have now, you don't need that anymore. You can find out the basics long before you ever book. So you have to be delivering something that really endears guests to that hotel. You have to be creating a memorable experience. And we talk a lot about loyalty, and that's the start of loyalty. Points and loyalty membership are important, but lifetime relationships are built around experiential moments that people remember and really help link in. And frankly, that's one of the ways we need to balance out intermediation, because if you behave like a commodity, you'll become a commodity, right? Yeah. So that's what's really interesting for us. And when I look at the rise of boutique hotels over the last, I guess, 5 to 10 years, but particularly recently, I think a lot of it is started off being design-led, but the hotels that do particularly well are those where design's an important component, but not the only thing. And there are dozens of hotels out there which are designed up to the hilt, but I would not consider them boutique hotels because it doesn't have that bespoke, tailored feel that we look for. And when we brought Kimpton to Europe, we've just opened in Amsterdam, that's my shameless plug, a couple of weeks ago. Go there, you'll really enjoy it, it's nice. When we brought Kimpton to Europe, we learned a lot about the experience that we're trying to create for the guests. So the restaurant and bar are run almost as separate entities. We don't want hotel dining, okay? We want a restaurant that locals will come to. So when people stay in our hotels, they feel part of the neighbourhood, part of the community. And in fact, the GM of the restaurant and bar in that hotel doesn't report to the hotel GM, which you can imagine is, a bit disruptive in our fairly traditional hierarchical model. They go separate ways. So the hotel GM doesn't really have a lot of control over the restaurant and bar offering it. And that's absolutely the right way to do it, because hoteliers are not necessarily great restaurateurs and vice versa. And when we look at that whole piece, design is important, restaurants and bars are important. The thing that fundamentally endears people to Kimpton, for example, is really personal experiences. And that, the only way you can do that is with great people who are genuinely nice. As you see, you can't teach them to smile, right? And people who understand something about the guests. And that's where loyalty matters, because you can learn about preferences and guests can tell you what they like, but you've got to care about people. And I think there are basics about hospitality that we could all do with getting back to a little bit in amongst all the data and trend analysis that we do. So that's my sort of plea, I think, as a weary traveller.
To Louis, it's good old-fashioned traditional service. My son has a Saturday job at a Marriott hotel, and in his Saturday contract, it says specifically for Saturday workers and all other contract people that sign it, that you must greet the customer within 6 steps. It's not new, it's traditional. So if we bring it back to technology, Roo, and look at where you're going with Google and some of the things that you're seeing and help develop your particular side of the market, could you just give us a few words around what your role is and what you're seeing in the market and how it kind of links together with what you've heard earlier?
Yeah. So my role specifically is I run a team that looks after the commercial relationships for Google within the travel and leisure sector, that be within the UK and across EMEA. And I was actually thinking before today, how am I going to frame the comments I want to make and all the rest of it, and actually just pulling on what Carrie said and my co-members of the panel here, actually alludes to all much the same thing, which is customer experience is absolutely critical. So every product that we develop, whether it be the origins of the company, the search engine, right the way through to YouTube, development of maps and other experiences, it's consumer experience first. Like what the consumer needs, what the consumer wants, how the consumer interacts comes first, and then we follow that up with, is there a commercial model to support that? So to give an example, I'm sure everybody can probably think back to the early days of search. I can just about remember the kind of the meta crawlers and anyone ever heard of Yahoo? Think search engines like that, they're virtually obsolete. But you'd put in a search term and it would be word plus another word plus, and nobody really knew what to type in or how the search engine worked. Fast forward to today, and it's much more inherent about how we use that. But that said, typing in, whether it be on a desktop or on a mobile device, we're still trying to keep as short as possible the search term that we put in because it's time efficient and it's not particularly user friendly depending on what you're doing. So now obviously voice search is a very fast growing method of search, and that's actually shaping a lot of our product development and the way that we interact with consumers, and is very relevant to all industries, but in particular the kind of tourism market and I'd say retail as well is a big beneficiary of that. And you'll have all seen adverts from Google, but also Amazon with their kind of voice search mechanisms and so on as well. What you can do in a voice search is a lot more human. So it goes back to this kind of like you need to have a human intent. I love the phrase about, it shouldn't be consumer, it should be a guest, and I think that's really relevant. If I'm looking, for example, I'll demonstrate this. If I'm looking for spend the weekend down in Cornwall, for example, if I was on my desktop, I would search for train times. I might search train times London to Cornwall, but I'd keep it short, and then I've got to go through the whole typing in my destination, what I want to do, it comes up with all the results. Actually, what I might want to do, which I can do in a voice search much more easily, would be something like, when's the next train from London to Cornwall?
From Paddington Station, take GWR towards Penzance, departing in 1 hour and 27 minutes.
I'd never type that in. It's not the normal thing you do. Our behaviour is to look up a company that's going to give us the train, and then you go. So it's a 5-minute interaction versus something that I know I've got to quickly pack my bag and get to Paddington. It tells me the station, etc. So that's an example of what we're doing there, and it's conversational, so it remembers the history of what I've asked for. It knows I wanted to go down to Cornwall, for example, so I could follow that up very conversationally, which again would be multiple searches typically, and say something like, what is the best thing to do in Cornwall?
Attractions in Cornwall include Eden Project, South West Coast Path, and others.
Okay, so it's listed me the Eden Project and various other things because it knows now roughly what I'm wanting to do, and it's that much more conversational. Already it's building out an itinerary and so on what I want to do, and because it's getting me excited about what I might want to do, I'm excited about now going not just to Cornwall, but I'm homing in on Penzance now, just through this kind of like the Google Assistant, which is now my best friend. How do I get excited? Play me some music from Pirates of Penzance.
Playing music.
This is a gamble. We could listen to it all, but I mean, ultimately...
If you're a member of this audience and you want to be on your list, is there anything that people need to do?
No, I mean, being serious, so that's kind of like, it's a fun way to demonstrate that kind of conversational human element to what we're developing. And that, it really goes across every tool that we are building at the moment, whether it be through what we call vertical search. So I'm sure many have used the flight search tool within Google, Hotel Finder. These are kind of some commercial, some non-commercial offerings. They're entirely built out of collecting data, understanding what consumers want, and providing a solution that ultimately limits the number of clicks, shortens the journey. So searching for attractions or holidays, things to do, whether it be with family or on your own, it ranges from same-day purchase, you research and do it immediately, all the way through to, like, for a package holiday, going to a Spain destination, for example. The typical journey online is around 70 days. So we're working furiously to make sure the right relevant content and the right experience is made available in as short a journey as possible, and that really is what fuels our development.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. I mean, what we're trying to draw together is the fact that there are lots of new innovations coming through, and it's what's relevant for your particular business. And the 5 generations in the workforce, we know each of them will potentially have different preferences and the way that they want to work. We heard earlier about the accessibility. There's only 17 hotels in the UK with a full hoist to get someone from a bed to a bathroom. New hotels will no doubt be designed with bedrooms that can be converted from normal use to disabled use. And it's accommodating this wider generational change that's going on. We do see a massive amount of change. There will be disruption around people's leisure time. People will have more leisure time. The younger generation coming through, 72% of them want experience rather than actual assets. Move that forward a generation or two. The whole thing is moving around. And I think what we've heard today from the panel is a selection of different insights around that behavioural change and how you as a business can best move forward and cope with that particular change. There's a couple of people that haven't given a top tip for the day. So if I start with Helena, have you got a top tip for people to take away?
I guess it's already been repeated, but when you look at everyone makes a mistake. There isn't a perfect business in this world. So if someone has a really rubbish experience in your business, all you need to really do is actually try to fix it. We've got an amazing slide that someone built, I don't know, it wasn't me sadly, but actually shows that if you don't do anything about it, it's the worst thing to do if you don't listen to the person. So it goes back to the fact that every single person in your business, doesn't matter what they do, cleaning, whatever they do, IT, the smile is really important, but the fact that actually care, because we're in the best business in the world. I mean, we really are lucky. I mean, hospitality and travel is the most incredible business to work in. So it's almost like remind all your people and just, yeah, care. Empathy. It's back into the empathy.
Thank you. Rafa, you did give a top tip, but did you want to have a last word?
Well, I would say I think we have got to, when we say that we care a lot about experiences and we're trying to drive great experiences for customers, I think we've got to continue to stretch ourselves. So, we, for instance, used to put on programs of experiences that we thought were special and bespoke and handcrafted, and when we met with customers and listened to them, we were hearing that they weren't in fact special and bespoke or handcrafted at all. So I think customers are beginning to expect more and more, especially premium customers are beginning to expect more and more. So you've got to continue to spend as much time on innovation on the experiences side as we're spending on innovation, say, on the technology side.
Yeah, thanks. Robert, any?
Well, one I'm going to take is I'm going to start serving Henrik's and tonic on my treadmill. But the one I would give is what everyone else is saying is, don't underestimate the value of customer insight and go beyond, above and beyond to deliver customer experience.
Yeah, thanks. Kristen?
Well, I would have said, yeah, and it's a silly little thing, but yeah, the thing I always say to my staff is don't feel guilty for talking to the customers. And to many businesses, I think, the staff feel guilty if they're standing around for 1 or 2 minutes just chatting, and it's not. But actually, I would surpass that by listening to Carrie's presentation again. That's my top tip. It's brilliant.
Thank you. Stephen?
No, I'm going to completely steal Carrie's as well. I think empathy is at the heart of great service, and we just need to do more to empower our teams to be confident and comfortable speaking to guests and speaking to customers.
Thanks. Ruth?
I think coming from a technology point of view, I work with a lot of customers who, buy all the Ferraris of technology, but nobody has got the gall to actually drive them, so they're sat in the garage. So it's stay on top of what technology can deliver, and keep an eye out on the ways in which different companies or different individuals are using that technology, and don't be afraid to do it yourself.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure we've got time for Q&A or not, have we? No? Okay. Thank you, my panel. Thank you very much for joining us today. Any questions, please come and see us at lunch. Thank you.